As I lay in my hospital bed, I wish to share my secrets of life. Life begins when we're first born, but our nervous system is not developed until we're 8 years old, so everything is too much pain for a newborn infant. In reaction to extreme pain, we tense up our bodies as tightly as we can, which overworks the muscles, creating a waste product called lactic acid that gets trapped in the muscles, causing them to go into spasm. And then we grow up and get that tension in our neck and shoulders we can't get rid of. Well, that tension continues to grow every time the baby cries or it's frightened or hurt or withdraws from pain or fear, until we later in life start developing high blood pressure. But that tension building in our body also affects our brain chemistry. When we have too much tension, the brain chemistry starts changing, trying to compensate for all the pain, causing a whole spectrum of mental illnesses. We can take control over this by doing yoga and stretching out the muscles, but that takes a long time and is painful. I have found that using ice packs and heating pads can have a much quicker effect. So using ice on the muscle can take that spasm and loosen it up long enough to replace the ice with heat, which will increase the blood flow, which can wash away the lactic acid, healing the muscle of the traumas of our past. When you take away that physical pain from the muscles that overloads the nervous system combined with emotional pain, without the physical pain, the emotional pain can surface, and we can remember the traumas of our past, learn the fake beliefs that were developed as young children that get us into trouble, which can help us to live a better quality life. Now, I've learned that this process has a spiritual foundation, and religion has attempted to substitute their belief. But I have dissected and come up with some serious, true answers. That when you truly believe in God, you say a prayer and you wait for the results. Now, there are people that will say the prayer but have no intention that God would hear them or answer them. And their attitude is, God, I don't need you, I've got this, because they want to be in control with the people that could hear the prayer. I would call this a non-belief in God, taking that kind of control and giving up control and praying to God as a true belief in God. But here's the problem. I go to church and they're teaching that we have to control sin, control with scriptures, control with guilt, control with shame. They're teaching all this control. But if giving up control is worshiping God, where are they leading the people? Now, a good example of this is if we look at all of our political leaders who claim to be Christians, and they've got a death grip on the throat of America with all their control. That tells us what kind of Christians they are. And I think we need to choose better when electing the people. We have a coming up election, and we can see the kind of control that has happened. An example would be January 6, 2021. This is the kind of control we don't need from our politicians. Now, I've spent many years working in mental health, and we can overcome our mental health problems. But we have to look at our spirituality. Now, I've gone to church and they preach John 3:16, that if I only believe in God, I can be saved. So the homeless man comes in and he gets saved, and he leaves and he's still homeless. The mentally handicapped man comes in and gets saved, but he leaves and he's still homeless. So where is there being saved? And then there's the issue of eternal life, but you've got to die to get it. I really feel there's something wrong with what the teachings of the church are. They need to get their act straight. If the leaders of the church are confused, where are they going to lead the people? To more confusion? Now, if you want to understand truly being saved, I've created a short story. Imagine a young little boy, and he's crawling around in diapers, and he's finally got enough strength to grab hold of furniture to stand up, and as long as he hangs up, as he holds on, he doesn't fall down. So he's holding onto the counter next to the stove, and Mom's cooking his favorite soup when the doorbell rings, and Mom goes off to answer the door. But she doesn't come right back. Meanwhile, the fire is burning under the pot, and the pot's getting hotter and hotter, and it smells so good the little boy just can't wait. So out of frustration, he finally reaches up to grab the pot, and it spills over and burns him severely. But time passes and he heals. One day he gets married, and he's living with his wife, and he loves her so much. But they're struggling financially. But one day, he gets a raise, and comes home and gives his wife the extra money and says, "Here, honey, I love you so much. Go shopping and buy something that will make you happy." So she goes out and goes shopping and looks and looks and looks. And finally she settles on something, and she buys it and brings it home. Well, it turns out what she buys is pots and pans, and they just happen to be identical to the pots and pans that he got burned as a child. He comes from work and walks in the front door, smells the soup, wants to come in the kitchen to thank his wife because he loves her so much. But he comes in the kitchen and he ends up on the floor thinking he's having a heart attack. The ambulance comes and takes him to the hospital, and they say, "No, your heart's fine. It's an anxiety attack." They suggest he go see a psychologist. So they go and talk with the psychologist, and they have many sessions, but nothing really comes of it. And the suggestion of the therapist one day is to regress and see if they can't go back into his past and see if they can remember something that will help. So they do this, and he remembers the pot with the soup burning him as a child, and that he developed the belief that the pot was going to kill him. So when he walked into the kitchen and saw the pot, it caused this huge anxiety attack that he believed he was dying. But now, as an adult, looking back at that memory, he can correct that belief. And now he can look at that pot and no longer have fear that he will die, because now he understands that belief. And now he is saved. Now, at the time the scriptures were written, I'm thinking of the 23rd Psalm, "Though I walk through the valley of the shadow of death, I fear no evil." This was written at a time that there was a lot of Satanism in the world, and in Satanism they do horrific tortures to children, bringing them to the very edge of death, and they do this to control them with fear. But in doing this, the children develop false beliefs because they're very young when this happens. Now, when you experience extreme pain, you put up all your protections and your guards to lock everything out that could hurt you. And one of the things that gets locked out is your belief in God. But to be able to relive those experiences, you have to give up your control that holds the pain deep in your soul and allow it to come to the surface so you can remember those extreme traumas and the beliefs that you formed so that you can truly be saved. The 23rd Psalm is not about when you die that should be read at a funeral. This is very much about living and healing now. If you believe you have to die to be saved, something is wrong. So I pray that people will really listen to what I have to say. Now, when somebody experiences that deep level of trauma at a very early age, we create an inner part of ourselves that will come forward and experience that hurt and that trauma and that extreme evil. But it's created only for that purpose. It doesn't receive love or understanding or nurturing. It doesn't get any of the good stuff. And then it becomes repressed and goes dormant to be woken up at a later time in our life. But when it wakes up, it comes out and it only knows the evil and trauma and suffering. And when that happens, it's very scary. But in Revelations, it talks about the return of Christ coming as a demon. When you treat that inner part of yourself with love and respect, it heals it 100%, and then it becomes Christ-like, and that becomes the return of Christ in your heart and soul. You don't have to die to have Christ return. I pray that people will hear my message and learn from it and straighten out the problems of their life.